Sascha and Tashi. Welcome to the show. Can you give us a bit of a background of your very busy muraling lives right now? I'm excited to hear how you got into this muraling world and up to what you're currently doing.
Well, we're now running Art Mural Science Cyprus. It's one of the top mural companies in Cyprus. We came here about 4 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic. We grew up in South Africa, and I started in arts. My mother was an art teacher. She was one of the most fantastic art teachers and an incredible artist herself. So I grew up in art school. Before I could walk, I was in art school, in art classes with my mother as a single mother as well. And she had a fantastic quality of being the most dignified artist you can imagine. She cut through all the embarrassment that comes with being an artist in society, if you know, especially long ago like that. That's 50 years ago. I'm 52 years old now. And she really had a great dignity. She was an incredible artist. And I grew up in art school. And so it was second nature to me. I went on to study in technical college commercial art because I always have a feeling of art being a business. It's something that's really important that it's a business. And I think it informs art back and forth across. To me, the artwork is completed when you've presented it to the client, they're pleased, you're pleased, and you get paid. That to me is a finished artwork. Other than that, It's sort of still playing around in a therapeutic sense.
Yes, for sure. I like that business side of it. It's like let's make money, let's make people happy, and that's what art does.
Well, of course, the best judge is a layman. The best judge is someone who. I was just thinking recently that the whole business of art is about honesty. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about being honest with the quality of the work you're doing. It's it's not rocket science. It's really straightforward stuff. It's like, is the art good? Is it suitable for the circumstances? Can there be money made from it? Is it something that can support itself? And so on and so forth. But getting back to what we were talking about, and then after technical college, I sort of gave up on art for about 2-3 years because I was so immersed in it all my life. Of course, I had to rebel a little bit. And I started doing the basic things that young people do, like working in restaurants and bars and so on and so forth, until I became quite expert at that. And an opportunity came where someone said, okay, I'll pay you to do this painting in my house. And I jumped at the opportunity. I went from making a fortune to making absolutely nothing. But I did paint a fantastic painting. And very quickly, I found myself in a situation where I was taken into a backdrop studio for corporate events. And within 6 months, I was sort of running the place and went on then to run big teams and doing huge 14 by 6 meter backdrops. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And also, in the meantime, I got into movies, ads, all the artistic areas. Growing up in South Africa, economically at the time, you had to really do everything you possibly could on every level. You know, you had to really think commercially. If it meant coming in to do something for an ad and just painting a little bit of stone effect, or you'd had to get really serious about every single aspect you could artistically and work with that. And since then, we did many years in South Africa. We were quite successful. And then the pandemic came and we moved to Cyprus because my ancestry is from here. And after 2 years of getting through pandemic, we set up our business here. And we've just been flourishing ever since. It's quite amazing, actually.
Awesome. Tashi, how did you end up in? Did he drag you into it, or are you a natural artist as well?
No, actually, it's really funny. Of course, I always loved the arts growing up. I started out in graphic and web design. And Sascha and I met like completely separate from that. We actually met at the club. And we knew each other for a very, very long time. I had no idea like that he was an artist and what he did. But in any case, later on our relationship had developed and we discovered these qualities in each other. And that's when we decided to start working together. So I bring the design aspect to the business. I do all the mural designs. I mean, Sascha obviously does the creative direction of that as well with me. We do everything together. But yeah, so that's how I came into it. I saw Sascha trying to run the business by himself, and I thought, it's so much. There's so much. There's so many aspects to this, right? So I decided to jump in, and so since then we've been collaborating together.
She's got amazing style. Amazing style. My favorite.
Of course, we're each other's biggest fans, so that helps.
Oh, I bet that helps a ton. My first thought was, I think I would love the quality time with my husband, but I would also hate it. How is your work dynamic? So can we talk about that just a little bit? It's because it takes a special kind of person with great communication to work and play together.
Yeah, well, it's really nice that our relationship really formed and solidified before any of this work stuff. Like we were best friends for years before we became like official, and we've been best friends ever since. We just love being together. We love being together all the time. We've been together now, well, it's becoming on 23 years. And our relationship is just deepening as we get older. We just love each other so much. It doesn't change. It just gets better.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love to hear that.
I was thinking about this, though. It's like in all aspects of art for me, it's like over and over, it's experience. It's experience. It's the kind of experience of drawing a straight line. If you want to draw a straight line, then draw straight lines until you're really good at drawing straight lines. And no matter how bored you get, no matter how frustrated you get, it goes for the relationships, it goes for the business of art and going to meetings and meeting clients and getting to know people. And you just have to keep showing up. You have to keep showing up. We've been through everything, all the reasons that in your mind you would be thinking, oh, but me and my husband, we couldn't do that. We went through all of that. We put each other through hell, back and forth. As any relationship needs to, it's a matter of like, you get it after a while, it makes sense, and you get into it and you can work with it. And for us now, I think we don't really see any value. We're each other's favorite person. We hang out together when we're not working. We hang out together when we're working. It's one of those wonderful, lucky things that comes with art, I would say, the business that we are in gives us that space.
Very cool. Does the business talk stop? Like, do you have any rules with that, or you guys just talk about art at all times?
Okay, so when we first arrived, we started over. Sasha's in his 50s, I'm in my 40s. So at the beginning of the pandemic, coming to a country we've never been to before, with basically having to start from scratch again. I lost my train of thought.
Well, we had to, since we had to start again, and also coming from where we were before in South Africa, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. It was a difficult situation economically. You really had to keep moving all the time to try and stay on top of things. So you were 1 minute you'd be doing sets for an entire production. 6 months later, there'd be something that would change, and that production would leave the country. Bam, you'd be doing something else to do with galleries or...
So in any case, that brings me... Sorry, I remember now. My point is this. The question was, do we have rules around stopping? Yes, we do. We didn't for a long time because growing the business was our main priority. So we would find ourselves working at 2 a.m., talking about it, talking on weekends. And we definitely now have gotten to a point where we have to shut off. There's the end of the day, and then that's it. We talk about other things, TV, whatever. Definitely. I think it's important to give oneself a break as soon as you can afford to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the whole restarting over thing. I could imagine that, especially after you worked so long to build a rapport where you are, and then you go to a completely different area. I saw you were doing some work in Belgium as well.
Yes.
So coming to Cyprus was just so amazing to experience such a different pace of life and a different kind of economy. In South Africa, we had to, like Sascha was saying, really diversify. We were doing sign writing, we were doing art restoration, we were doing scenic art and paint effects for TV and movies. And here in Cyprus, the difference in the economy is we can really just focus on doing the murals that we love. It was quite an easy thing, actually. I was blown away by like how much work we had to put in South Africa to coming here. And basically what happened is we put up a little ad on Facebook with some of our work. And it was like for nothing. It was like 20 euros for the week. And we have not stopped working from that day. Like it must be like 2.5 years ago now. It just went from there, just like constantly growing, slowly putting our prices up. Now we're just, we're very happy with how quickly we managed to establish ourselves here.
Go ahead.
I've kind of been philosophizing about this important factor, I think, for an artist to, like, you got to be honest about where you are, what your circumstances are, what's going on in the market per se, what's where you are. Circumstances are so important. They're so important. You can tie your success and therefore your capabilities and your confidence to things that are out of your control. They're really out of your control. And you can't really admit it to yourself when you're in it, because you have to keep moving. You have to keep doing something. But when you're out of it, you can look back on it and you can realize, okay, I really thought that was some shortcoming on my business sense, or that was something that I was struggling with there. But it turns out, no, in those circumstances, there's absolutely no chance that will work. And so it's a very honest thing as an artist to be able to say, okay, hold on, that's not working now because I'm not in the right place. I'm not with the right people. I'm not connected properly here and there, or these things are changing all the time. And to be honest about it, because you can end up, I've seen so many artists lose their interest, end up giving up on art for reasons that they will take personally that aren't personal. They're not in your hands.
Yeah. Okay. So what would your advice be to artists who maybe are wanting to give up, and then they are taking it personally, and they're trying different things, but nothing's hit yet? Because I'm hearing that you guys put out an ad and that worked. I'm like, I haven't tried ads. That's a really good idea. Maybe I should try ads.
Well, look, I love following people like you, people who are bringing this information as much as possible. I mean, we were all starting out, so we were all trying to get as much information on how to do this art business thing as we could and as we've developed. Actually, a friend of mine here in Cyprus, a mural artist from Sydney, he was here and he was also trying to get into I'm like, dude, come on, just post an ad. I'll even pay for it. And within a week, it'll be fine. And you know what? He didn't get one response. So I think it's really on a case-by-case basis. It's not something really anyone can tell you. My advice to artists is always to push to refine your craft. You don't have to be into super realism or anything, but whatever it is you're doing, push yourself, never give up, to just get it better every single time, so that when you do post that work online, it just hits.
Yeah, quality of product is key. And I'm sure I was just thinking about that, about how I'm sure it played some kind of role whenever you guys are transferring locations. You brought with you this really good craft that you've been working on for a long time. And so you had really good photos to showcase, and it was just, and you knew what you were doing. And so that experience also probably helps in that.
The funny thing about it in Cyprus is we had this 18-year, 20-year portfolio showing people, and they're like, yeah, but what have you done in Cyprus? And it was such a weird experience not to be taken at that kind of face value. So just like someone starting out, we had to just have really affordable pricing for the first few jobs, deals that people just couldn't, it's too good to pass this, so we could get some pieces up in Cyprus. And that also really helped a lot to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. What were those prices? Can I ask? What do you, for your area? I know it's so different for every area. I've done free stuff to get the ball rolling, so no judgment.
Yeah, okay. So I think that the first mural we did in Cyprus, we charged something like 200 euros. And it was a poolside mural. It's something that, like, now we would easily charge 1,500 euros for. And we put 1,500 euros worth of work into that 200 euro piece. Listen, we were still trying to get to grips with the currency exchange and, like, what does the value of the work here compared to the value of the work in a different kind of economy. So yeah, we started there. We started really low, and as demand increased, we put up our prices, because if you're working all the time and having no time to rest, you're charging too little.
But also we started low, even lower than that, actually, because and I mean it in the sense that we arrived with, we didn't really, neither of us come from particularly, our teachers don't make a lot of money. We don't come from particularly supportive, wealthy backgrounds, or we don't have a strong base. And especially having to move like that, we came with very, very little. And first of all, I mean, we did whatever jobs we could find. And I kind of feel that's very informative for an artist. It's like, for me, for waitering and jobs like that I've done before were very powerful to learn to communicate with people, to learn to deal with the client, to deal with yourself, to get a sense of what someone wants, just to get a realistic read on the situation. You know, and then while we were doing hard customer service jobs and things like that when we first arrived, because obviously it's lockdown in a brand new country, we couldn't do anything. So we got the first jobs we could find. Then I went and worked first on a sort of friendly basis, and slowly worked with one of the top local artists, and even though I was sweeping floors in the studio and just being quiet and seeing what the situation is, seeing what's the market like, where's he making money, how does it work here, how long did this situation take. And a lot of people told us when we got here that our ideas were impossible, that to set up this mural company that we live every day now,
and that our financial goals were just like, our expectations were way too high.
Yes, our expectations are way too high. And it's quite funny actually now, because it's now the vibe is like, I always knew you could do it.
Yeah.
But
that's the best. Well, I mean, it is amazing. In the time we've been in Cyprus and actively painting, we've met the president of the country. We've been honored by one of the municipalities for a community project that we did. So we've really made an impact. We were noticed, and they put us in the newspaper locally to introduce us. And so we've had like a very warm welcome, and just people have really taken notice of the work we're doing.
And on top of that, I think having a very strong female aspect to this business, to our business, it brings a kind of integrity and seriousness to it that I think often the boys' club can be missing. It can be a very graffiti art orientated, guys out painting, cowboy kind of expedition, which is fun and everything, but it shows in the work. It's sort of kind of pushes away half of the market, because a lot of women don't feel included in that kind of approach or that kind of aspect. And so having the female touch and having the seriousness that we also bring from our experience in other businesses and in business in general is very, very important. It can change the game completely. You know, you're going from doing some piece on the outside of someone's shop to genuinely being involved in the decor with the company and having those discussions that are much more sophisticated, much more refined, and in the end, actually much better business in the long term, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about how your guys' style would bond together and to create something new. Okay, so whenever you're working on something, do you both have different strengths? You're like, hey, you take the leaves and I'll take the people, or how does that work?
Well, actually, when it comes to graphic painting, any kind of graphic artwork, that's where I can participate, or with sign writing, because I cannot draw like Sascha can draw. I mean, his drawing. He's so insanely talented. He's pushed himself so hard. Like sometimes you just think you're looking at a photo. I can't do that. A lot of people, most people can't do that. So my strengths are like paint effects. I can make anything look like anything with paint and graphic art. And Sascha's is his hyperrealism. I mean, he's not really limited by style. And then I also kind of try to divide it up that he really is free to concentrate all his energy and creativity on the painting. So I take as much of the sort of like admin work, customer service work, marketing. I mean, we do everything together. But I try to keep like, that's really where my focus is. So while he's painting, I'm designing the next mural, I'm talking to clients, I'm setting up meetings, I'm making sure that there's food, that there's, that everything is easy just to get the job done, the logistics, I guess.
But it also crosses over quite intensely because I cannot finish a painting without Tashi's eye. You get into that final step of finishing a painting and you can sit and struggle for 2-3 days on something that takes 15 minutes. And Tashi can come in there and just go that, and that, and it's done. And it's done perfectly. And I walk away quite satisfied. And it's the same when we are designing. Tashi often says to me that it's my presence or my eye there to just say, move that a little bit to the left or to the right, etc. I think it's quite important that you have that intimacy because you cannot design if you don't know about the experience of painting. If you don't know what it means to be on the wall, you cannot design, and vice versa, really, at the end of the day as well. Poor design or poorly planned out artwork will always show it. It will always have that shortcoming. You can feel the balance is off.
Yeah, we're like 80% planning, 20% execution.
Yeah.
Love that. So whenever you are executing a mural, I was noticing you use an airbrush. Tell me all about it. What kind of airbrush do you use? What are some of the benefits of it? Like I'm not very experienced with using spray in general. I use brush, but the small amount of times I have used any kind of spray, it just goes so much faster. So what kind of airbrush do you use? Is it connected to an air compressor?
It's connected to an air compressor, 50 liter. And the most recent airbrush I've got, it's actually a refined spray gun from, what's it?
It's Iwata.
Which model is it? Do you remember?
Oh, it's the...
No,
it's the LHP 80, I think it is. Okay. And basically, it is a spray gun, but with an airbrush size nozzle. So it has a really small point, but it can do bigger areas. Because
I started, we pulled that in because when I was running the corporate events backdrop company, we were exporting all over. And we tried everything, big spray guns. We tried small airbrushes, Aztec airbrushes. We tried these particular, there was the Air Gunza version as well, which I had to, which went out of production, which was a very fine, but then finally I got to Europe to find and they stopped producing it. So I've had to use a new one. Now I'm combining brush and spray. I think it's quite, because what I've done is I'm taking the Vermeer oil painting technique and I'm using it to go even quicker because I like quick. I like to see the action in the painting. I like to feel the paint moving on the canvas and on the wall. I want to see the energy in it because you can take an airbrush and you can go slowly like this and you can do quite a thick line, thin enough, but quite thick. But if you flick it in the right angle, at the right angle like that, you can get a pencil line. And so the more confidence and speed you bring into it, and I sort of...
this is one of the main benefits of using the spray gun is being able to, like he was just bringing up there, the Vermeer oil painting technique. So it consists of doing your underdrawing in like a umber tone. And from there, he built it up with light and dark, and we finish with transparent layers of red, yellow, and blue to actually mix the colors on the wall. So we don't have, we pre-mix just red, yellow, and blue, and all the colors just manifest as the transparent. So it's just exactly like an oil painting.
It's like an oil painting wash. So instead of a wash, I'm using a transparent spray. which you can't actually, funnily enough, get in spray cans.
Yeah.
In spray cans, they have produced a couple of transparent sprays, but they're
don't
not
get the
really,
same.
they're opaque.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with those individual colors all the time, and you have to fit the colors that are manufactured into your work. Whereas with this, it's more about that overlay of red, yellow, and blue in soft layers. So I'll literally run the blue over the whole canvas in all the right areas, then layer the yellow on top, then layer the red, pop the highlights and drop the shadows back, and bam, you suddenly find it's got an amazing realism. And this Vermeer did with oil painting, which is like a hyper realism in a time when there weren't even cameras, let alone anything else. And he achieved the most incredible effects and feelings. And when realism is better than real, it's the feeling I try to accomplish if I ever can. If you know, but I'm using, instead of also edging, because classic airbrushing that we see is stencils
and a lot of tape,
and it becomes clunky. Even a small airbrush, that's why I prefer the spray gun. I like to move, I like to cover a lot of ground. I think it's quite important to keep that energy going, for me anyway. They're great artists who work with stencils, but I find the stencils can be a bit sharp and a bit plastic, like a bad Photoshop cut or something like that. Whereas what I'm enjoying now is when there's a sharp edge, I'm using brush. And then I sort of soften that brush in with my fingers and the paintbrush, and then I come and I spray it back or bring it forward. So I'm creating that play between the focal point and then the soft, out of focus areas as well in the painting, so that it's got a real realism to it. Like really, it's exactly, I'm drawing the eye into that focal point, making that sharp, and I'm just using it freehand, brush and spray as I'm going.
Very cool. Okay, I would have to see an example of this red, yellow, and blue thing happening, because you're blowing my mind. I'm like, that is way more complex than I thought you were going to say, but I think it's so cool. And you can tell that you love your craft. You can tell that it's fun for you, and you figured out a very specific way that works for you. And I had no idea that was even a thing. So I'm really glad I asked that question. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So I guess, so let's go back to a little bit of the business side of it. I'm still so blown away by your technique. I need to see it. So I'm going to go to your page, and hopefully maybe you have something on there that kind of shows it, but or maybe will in the future, so I can see that. But so how are you getting customers now? Like, how are customers coming to you now, and how did you start getting customers besides the ad and whenever you first moved locations?
I kid you not, Andrea, not a single other way. Word of mouth is supposed to be such a huge thing. And for South Africa, when we were in South Africa, that was it. That's all we had was word of mouth. I find now I run an ad, and it's not an ad, really. I'm not trying to sell, like, it's not like a typical ad. It's just a kind of reel of some of our latest work set to like maybe a trending sound or just a really cool sound that I like. So it's like an entertaining just piece of content, really. I wouldn't say it's too much of an ad. A little bit salesy in the caption, but just to let people know, murals are great. Like these are the benefits, blah, 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 blah. And that's it. I run that. I spend probably around 10 euros a day on Instagram and Facebook each. And I'm just pushing it really hard there, because I feel like when we hit like 10K followers, it just gives you a different kind of, it's like, 10,000 people like this, like, so we're reaching nearly 5K. So I think that's really cool, but that's the way we're doing it. And if my ad doesn't go out, I just don't have like much movement on the page. I'm really bad at posting every day. I hate doing this. Like,
but however, all that's said and done, we have more work than we can manage. We actually have overflow that we've been passing on to fellow artists who, for example, one artist came from Ukraine and was busy trying to, as a refugee, come into work here, an incredible artist. And we managed to help get him going. And just by our overflows, we actually have more. One of the things we said recently to ourselves, I like to be organized and pace things out, etc. But you can't, because anything can happen. Anything can happen at any stage between the design and the completion of the project. A project can fall down, it can disappear, anything can happen. So you must have more on the plate than you can eat at the end of the day, because it's the only way to keep it in motion.
I have to say, like last August, we had a lot of work lined up, and one after another, the projects just started falling through or getting delayed. And we sat here the whole of last August with no income. It was terrifying, horrible experience. So when we got into this year, I was like, we are not relenting with marketing. If there's no marketing, there's no business. And so I've been pretty relentless with it. I advertise at least 3 weeks out of every month. And we are currently taking bookings for October. Our schedule is so full. And it's a numbers game, because the majority of people, at least in Cyprus, that contact me can't afford us. They have a different expectation of what the value of the work is. So it's about getting to as many people as possible to find the right clients for us, because we could not possibly sustain doing murals for 200 euros for the rest of our lives. We'll just, die broke and whatever, I don't know. So yeah, that's what I would say is really, really important. If there's no marketing, there's no business. And to have more work than you can possibly do is definitely the goal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree that it definitely is a numbers game, and that people coming to you and then ghosting because you give them a price that's not what they thought, or they just can't afford you, and they're telling you that is so normal. I have so many students coming in, they're like, this one person didn't want my thing. I'm like, oh, there should be like multiple people. So what prices are you giving people at that, or like a range of things? And and also for the numbers aspect of it, how many people do you think buy when they reach out versus don't buy?
Okay, these are good questions. So when someone messages me on social media, it's usually like, oh, can I have some more information? So I have a pre-written response that's like, hey, thanks for reaching out. Prices are based on size and complexity. Prices start from 1,500 euros for a wall, because we've decided that we're not leaving the house for less than 1,500 euros.
Yeah.
Right, it's not worth it, right? And then I'm like, if you want a quotation, please send us a photograph of the wall. Let us know what it is you want. Maybe you have an example image, because it's based on detail as well. Where are you located, and when do you want to do the project? And then I give them a basic little price breakdown. The way we do it in Cyprus is we take a 10% design fee, a 45% booking fee. So like when the design is done, and we've sussed out like we can work with these people, it's a good relationship, and it's like safe to proceed with the project, then we take a booking, the 45% booking fee, which is just to book the date, which will be like for someone now in October. And then finally at the end, when they're happy and we're finished, they give us the final 45%. So that's how we're presenting at the moment. In terms of like how many inquiries I get and how many bites, what would you say? 2 out of 10? 1 out of 10?
No, 1 out of 5. I thought 1 out of 5. Yeah, we've got quite a high success rate in general, but that's 1 out of 5.
But if you can get 100 rejections a week, then you're on the right track.
But it's also, we've also gotten it's because it's subtle things. Like when someone comes back to you and says, okay, I'm happy with your minimum price of 1.5. This is what I want. Here's the picture of the wall. Here's the idea. Then again, just coming back with a statement like, this is our suggested budget, rather than slamming in there and saying, okay, I want 3 grand for this. You come in with a suggested budget. That can make all the difference in a sale right there and then. Someone can be put off immediately just because of that subtle bit of language, which comes from experience. I mean, it's not complicated stuff, but it really comes from the experience of doing it. When we arrived here, we also noticed, and I've seen it before, and it's like artists here were often people who are already, it's more of a hobby for them than it is a business, a full-time business. they've come from pretty secure circumstances, so they can afford to mess around and give it away for free for the next 20 years and play around like that. But it creates a different vibe in the business if you're really trying to be professional about it, because people would give away 20 designs at the beginning. So the customers had expectations of this kind of holiday hobbyist artists
free designs,
giving you free designs,
right?
While they give you a Coca-Cola and a sandwich, like that, all this vibe around artists. And I've grown to appreciate my mom's assertive dignity for her art was as serious as mathematics, philosophy, history. And she carried her demeanor like that, and it was deadly serious. She did not play around with it. Art was not to be joked about, or it was deadly serious, because without art, you don't have a civilization. Full stop. At the end of the day. And I think in the business, we also have this idea that, yeah, people like artists and it's cool and it's popular now, but there's still that echo of like, how the hell are you going to make a living doing this stupid thing that isn't really serious? Whereas let's take it seriously now. Doing a customer service job, a waitering restaurant job, your basic average job here in the States, anywhere in the world these days, it's unaffordable. It's actually, you end up renting half an apartment with someone you don't know, just doing a job that previously might have gotten you a house and a car and a family. Now you barely can survive on the so-called stable jobs that everyone thinks of as like, that's a real job. Those jobs these days are literally a joke. Whereas this opportunity as an artist, if you have a good product and you have some skill and you put some thought into it, is actually a way out of that and a way beyond that. And you can give yourself, we live better now than anybody we met in those circumstances.
People on salaries are really, really struggling. So this is the beautiful gift of the industry we've all chosen to be in, is that the potential is uncapped.
Yeah, the sky is the limit, really. It's really amazing. You can really I've seen people do one job for 6 months and buy a house in the south of France, a chateau in the south of France, off one job. I've seen people change Ferraris once a month for years on end in the business. There's a lot of money, and we as artists, we have a lot of power, because just like the chief mechanic in a mechanic's shop is the actual guy that matters, the artist is the one that matters. The artist, the one doing the work, the one actually putting their life on the line, and they're alone at 3 a.m. with a paintbrush. That is the actual cutting edge of the thing. And for a long time, I'd think, the business must be left to someone else, or this or that. And not really. It's about the artist, and we should know that. At least we should know our value. If the head mechanic walks out of the shop is shut down. Doesn't matter what the owner says. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's over. So we have that power, and kind of a bit of a responsibility to take care of ourselves as an artist, to make sure that we're okay, that the money is coming in, that we're eating, that we're well taken care of. And if you really love the art, that's even more important, because suffering artists don't really do good work.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, no, I personally don't know anybody who's changed out Lamborghinis, but I like that you do. So what are they doing? Murals? Are they doing paintings? Like what?
Yeah, no, I've been in this business now for over 30 years. I've seen people setting up mural companies, running teams and teams of artists, and really seeing the value of the business. They had the right connections in the right place, and they were making hundreds of thousands, if not millions, off it. I mean, let alone the backdrop company that I was running a studio for, we were turning over $1 million a month. We were paying the salaries of the entire events company just off the backdrops we were doing. And with my planning, I went from them doing one backdrop a month with 5 artists all struggling away, to one artist, myself, a couple of guys helping me clean and organize everything. And we went up to 4 backdrops a month, a quadruple production in 6 months, just by looking at it clearly and planning it out and being honest about it and going forward with it. So that's nothing. The amounts of money that people are making with art is unbelievable. What I'd like to see is that money going to the artist first and foremost, at the end of the day, the one doing the work.
Because the one changing out Lambos was, just using people really. We're not like, I don't know about this middleman business, this way of making money, of having a team of artists, paying them like definitely less than it's worth and keeping so much profit for yourself. That is how he was able to do that, what Sascha was describing. So that's not for me.
And I guess at the end of the day, I mean, one artist would take a quarter of those jobs, do it well, do it properly, plan it where you get a better product than anything those guys ever produced, and make the same amount of money, if not more than that guy in the process. I mean, it's quite, I think it's quite deep that there is really no limit. There's no limit. There's no limit to what you can make if you just think about it, plan it out properly, and concentrating, as you say, on the craft. On the craft, because
no, it's always a double-edged sword. You've got to make sure that you're as good as you can be in whatever you're doing, and at the same time, marketing. Like, there's so many ways to get. You've got to just keep putting yourself out there, right? Like, that's the most important thing, is that people actually see you.
Yeah, and I just want to echo when you said that you don't really make ads. Like, and I look at all of the other, like, everybody doing ads out of the art space, and they're very boring. And usually, right, you're entertaining people and you're boosting those entertaining posts. And I think that's our gift as artists. We forget that we are very entertaining in just what we do. Like, we create something out of nothing. And so instead of putting a picture that says, buy my murals, and like a small picture of your art, it's like, use your full art on the whole page and show what you're doing. Like, I went and looked at some of the videos that you made, and you do a compilation of different projects that you've done. So it could be as easy as that. For listeners, just take a compilation of 3 or 4 of your best works and show a little bit of you working on them, show the pretty parts of it. Maybe not so much the messy beginning and middle, because I was noticing a lot of yours is you show the pretty parts of it. You show the basically almost complete parts, and that's what the part that catches people's eyes. So just a little takeaway from watching you guys and seeing what you're doing. It's just showing what you've created and have that multiply, and you're using ads to do it. That's so great. And I appreciate you sharing that it's about $10 a day on Instagram and Facebook. We love those kind of details.
Yeah. Absolutely. Nobody wants to talk about money. What's wrong with people? It's the most important thing.
Well, it should be in art school. You should be taught dealing with money, and a lot of money, amongst other things in art school.
They don't teach us business in art school.
They don't teach us that at all. So I think it makes us quite vulnerable, and it's problematic at the end of the day, because there are people who are taught to use us to make money. So, and they know very well. And another aspect there is, what was I going to say? No, I forgot. Carry on.
Well, I mean, the most important thing about the ads is not making them advertising. Like, if you spend any time on social media, I think you can pick up quite quickly. Nobody wants to be advertised to anymore.
And keeping the dream alive. Keeping the dream alive, to realize that for most people, what did Winston Churchill do when he retired? Paint. He sat really? And painted. George Bush, what did he do? He's painting. He loves painting, just like Churchill. A lot of people, it's a dream. It's a dream to understand your people, and to understand that the dream of being an artist. And so you can't show too much pain or too much grit or too much struggle. You keeping their dream alive, I think, to a large extent. So that's what communicating. I mean, when I look at the video, I can remember what it's like in 40-degree heat, out on a beach, blasted with sand, while I'm trying to get the line straight. And we suffer and struggle like people in construction. We're going through construction.
It's hard, right? It's a hard job.
It's really hard. And I suppose you could try and show that, but I don't really see that working for anybody. I see a lot of that. So I don't see that. I mean, I think people like to be more vulnerable these days. Like, they don't like to be advertised to. They also like to see people being more open emotionally
and
authentic in a way, but not too authentic. And it's
true.
It's a balance of what works at the end of the day. The whole business is about what works. I mean, as much as I can talk about getting the craft right, etc., I make something, I present it, I see if it hits. If it hits, it hits. And then you can work with that and you can develop it. If it doesn't, well, then move on. If you want to eat, move on.
I saw, can I interrupt? I saw a TikTok the other day. And it's like, all my side hustles from the last year that didn't work. And she's like, I did 3 weeks of selling this and 2 weeks of, it's of course nothing worked if you don't like really, you have to commit and you have to like find that in yourself to not give up and really keep pushing, just trying to make it better and trying to refine one's skills in how you communicate with your clients, how you set it up for yourself. I don't know. I'm pretty sure probably a lot of other artists also struggle with self-care, especially if the business is getting overwhelming. We need to part of being professional is resting. It is eating well, healthy, unprocessed foods. Like all of these things really become a big part of the business. You have to really take care of yourself and be gentle with yourself because you've got to never stop refining every aspect of the business, of your craft.
Yeah, that is so true about the whole art being such a dream thing. And I don't think about that because being in it, I know how much it takes to lift the ladders and the unpack and the just painting on a ladder in general. And sometimes I'll go and hang out with my friends and I'm like, yeah, my back hurts or I'm just really tired from today. And they're like, what? Why? You or I'll be like, they'll be working out and I'm like, no, like my job is a workout. And they're like, are you sure? It's like they don't believe you. And it's like, oh, it's fine. I love it. Never mind.
But you can easily find yourself having done 1,000 squats in a day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When I was pregnant, I realized I was like, oh wow, this is this is a lot. There's a lot of picking things up off the floor. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we touched on just about everything here. And I appreciate your transparency. And I love that you're so busy. I think, especially moving to a new place. And I think that I know a couple artists who have moved and they're having to start over. And I think this will be very inspirational to them. And anybody who has anybody that wants to start a mural career like yours. So I highly recommend anybody that's listening, go to your Facebook page. And so your Facebook page is, can you tell us exactly what the name of it is?
All right. So it's nothing fancy because I thought I've got to choose something more kind of like SEO, search engine optimization.
Love it.
I called the page Art Mural Signs Cyprus.
Art Mural Signs Cyprus.
That's
awesome.
it.
Murals.
Yeah.
Art Mural Signs Cyprus.
That's it. So it's a mouthful, but we did. It did almost immediately come up on the first result for Cyprus. Luckily, it's a small country, but yeah, it really helped.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I put my Instagram as Missouri Muralist, but I should do that for Facebook as well because people search or Springfield. Those SEO words are key in that way. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with all of us. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of new likes and messages after this. And yeah, I really enjoyed just getting to know you guys. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Andrea.
Okay, I'm going to end recording.